I want to take a real detour now into something that's totally dissimilar, which I had no idea that you were involved with, which was your work with Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
And you were on the wall on multiple songs.
Right.
And I would love to hear from you just like about what a Pink Floyd session is like, how you got that call. I know you're Uncomfortably Numb.
Right.
You're also on the wall. And it just said, Lee Ritenour was brought in to thicken things. So I want to know what that means as well.
Well, they, that was early enough in the pop record business that a group like Pink Floyd was not supposed to be using session guys.
Yeah.
That was like a no-no.
You had your guitar god and...
yeah, and they were a band, it was like, what are they doing? Yeah. But it turned out that Bob Ezrin was the producer on that part. And he originally, and I had worked with him with some other artists. Mm-hmm. And I think, I might be wrong about this, but Ezrin even produced one of the sessions that Barry Gibb did in Miami for his solo record. And so everybody was all connected. And, so then when I got the call for Pink Floyd, already they were huge, and they were a band, and I knew why I got the call because it was Bob Ezrin producing, but I thought, wow, that's strange. I thought they did everything themselves, and then and of course they had great guitar playing on the record, already. So, but anyway, so I had this huge, like we all did in those days. We had a case that's the size of this room, that full of like 21 guitars and mandolins and banjos and bazookas and strats and jazz guitars and Martins and D18s and all the 12 strings, which some of the guys wouldn't play the 12 string. There's a great story about Barbra Streisand and me playing the 12 string too, I can tell you. But anyway, so the idea is for us that we were going to play together, and do the and is it the high string?
High string. It's a high string on a Comfortably Numb,
right? Yeah, and then he's playing the regular acoustic, I think.
Yeah, I think I've seen him say that it was some sort of like Martin Dreadnought or something.
Yeah,
like a D28 or something like that.
So anyway, going back to my rig, so I said I'm going to impress these guys with my rig, and my box full of guitars, So I come in and it was at Producer's Workshop in Hollywood, and it was a medium-sized room, not a small room, but not gigantic either, but a good-sized room, and it was just full of his guitars.
It's wall to wall.
Oh, yeah, literally wall to wall, and every killer guitar that known to mankind that you could imagine, and then on top of it, they had all the latest pedal boards and everything, they were into it. So then I get there and they're working on the solo
from Comfortably Numb.
Comfortably Numb, and or is it Another Brick in the Wall, right?
Well, there's Another Brick in the Wall which you're credited on, and it just says Lee was brought in to thicken things. It doesn't say what, and then on Comfortably Numb it says acoustic, like a high string.
No, Comfortably Numb for sure we did together. But then on Another Brick in the Wall, they said we were working on this guitar solo. We've been working on it forever, and we with Roger, and he said we can't figure out how to get out of it, and how to end it. We don't like the ending. He said, would you mind? We'll play you the solo. And you just punch in the last 4 bars and give us some ideas. We won't use it. He's going to play it. But we just, just like to freshen up our mind. And that was actually pretty creative, to have somebody, come in cold and just hear it. And so I got kind of close to his sound and took an hour and a half just to get a sound close enough to his. And then they played me the solo, on Another Brick in the Wall, and then the last 4 bars I like kept punching and trying all these ideas, and then we did that for another hour, and then they finally said, "Oh, that's great, Lee. That gave us a bunch of ideas." And they said, "Okay, let's move on to the acoustic stuff."
Yeah.
And then we did. And then, when the record came out, like, I don't know, 2 years later, I was real curious to hear that solo.
Yeah.
And it was definitely him. It was not me. It was 100%.
But could you hear some of your influence speak?
But that's what I was going to say. But the end of the solo, there's a huge influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that it turns out that, they were studying the cats around them too. So they were checking out the records going on for whoever's records it was, and session stuff going on with other guitar players, whether it was Carlton or Dean Parks or Jay Graydon or some of the guys in New York, Huey McCracken and some of those guys. So they, for a rock band that was supposed to be just isolated by themselves, they were definitely being influenced by the times as well.
Well, it made for a much better record than probably what it. I mean, it's an amazing record. It's pretty timeless. So, how about we listen to a little bit of "Comfortably Numb" and another brick in the wall, and we'll hear it. Let's hear some your influence here on this solo.
We don't need no education.
It sounds like an EMG pickup.
It really does, right? Yeah. But they had this influence of a little funk going over that. Definitely, they were listening to the LA scene then.
Yeah, it's like the 2 and 4 position strat thing with the EMGs, maybe the preamp,
Kids alone. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone.
Right.
So did you play any of this? I mean, you're credited on this, but it doesn't say what.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, as that little rhythm pattern went by, that sounded like something I would do. And that's the funny thing about doing this interview with you, is that the Steely Dan thing was the same way. It's like, I know certain things are me, but then earlier on, it was like, that might have been me too,
Yeah. Well,
hard to remember.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that every session musician has like certain signatures, and I would totally get that you could recognize where you like, oh yeah, I do that.
Yeah. So, and we, and all of us were a little bit different. Some of the guys were more chameleons, like Dean Parks. Dean probably might be on more records than any of us, but he's a bit more of a chameleon in the sense that he didn't have as much of his own personality as I was finally emerging with, or Ray Parker was emerging with, or even Robin Ford, or even Jay, so certain guys were more, they just fit into the scene,
right? Yeah, I get that. I mean, some people hire you because they want your specific sound, and
that started happening more and more as I got more established.
Yeah, well, I mean, I totally get it. Let's see if we can get this. Let's see if we get this solo that you were involved in helping.
Great sound.
It kind of has a Clapton kind of thing.
Yeah,
the overbend and the.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So that whole kind of when he went back into the rhythm thing, I started doing that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was more rhythmical, and so I think they took that influence.
Yeah.
Because he got up so high.
Yeah.
He had nowhere to go.
Right.
And I remember us talking about that. I said, yeah, you ran out of room, and he still had like another 4 bars to go,
Right.
So then when I tried some stuff, I sort of brought it back down into that little rhythm pattern.
Yeah.
And then he ended up doing something slightly different anyway. But that was the big influence.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I'm going to play now just a little bit of Comfortably Numb so we can kind of hear that high-strung acoustic part. You and David Gilmour, were you guys facing each other? Or?
We were right next to each other. I remember in Producer's Workshop, like I said, it wasn't a big room. And Ezra was such a cool producer. And I said, do we have to be in isolation rooms? Or are we going to I said, no, let's just sit next to each other. And
Do you know what kind of acoustic you had for that?
That I had?
Yeah.
I think I had, it wasn't like, $1 million guitar. I think it was a Takamine.
All right. Yeah, the Japanese Martin of the day.
That's right. All right. And then that's what I had as the high string.
Go Lazy. I always presumed it was a 12-string. I had no idea.
Yeah. All right.
Did you have a sense of this was going to be a huge hit when you were playing on it in the room? Where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be huge?
No, definitely not. It's like, because everything is, sometimes you just work on 16 bars over and over, they had their tracks and I don't think we were tracking that from the beginning. I think they already had their basic track.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember them playing. I'm sure they had to track it somehow,
Right.
But the bass and drums they definitely piecemealed a lot of stuff together, and that was a talent in those days that people like Pink Floyd, or going back again to the Bee Gees or Steely Dan, could kind of keep track of their vibe,
Yeah.
and working on one song that long,
Yeah.
and make it work,
That's incredible.
yeah.